Hello, 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 and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Kiva, and today we are going through something a little bit different. So, before I even want to get into it, I'm going to say that I am not a mindset coach. I don't associate with being a mindset coach. Yes, while obviously there are certain behaviors and identity issues that will keep you stuck in your physique, I am a physique transformation coach. Okay, I don't like when people say that a physique transformation coach is a mindset coach. You've probably seen that in my content on Instagram. But yeah, I don't associate with being a mindset coach, although I do believe that a lot of the reason women stay stuck with their physique is down to their identity and behaviors. I am not someone that is just going to get into your mind, okay? But what I do want to talk about today is a little bit more identity focused. It's more about alcohol, about pastries, these kind of scenarios that I used to find myself stuck in, okay? I've always said, I am someone that is not someone really that drinks anymore. I'm actually kind of getting back into drinking, girls. But like nothing huge. Like I might go out for one or two cocktails. Mm, the last while it's been every few weeks, but generally it's like 3 or 4 times a year. So I'm gonna say maybe it's like 10 times a year now, which is, I suppose, like kind of regular, but like for someone that didn't really drink, but it's still not regular, right? And I have gone through a period of where I did not drink at all. So when I was in college, I was doing everything under the sun, and people used to say that I would be someone that was like hooked up to an IV line essentially. And then after college, I was like, right, okay, well, actually, when I moved to Dublin and I got with Kian, I kind of became a bit more secure in myself. And I started in the gym and everything like that, and I found a new addiction, I found a new obsession. So I kind of stopped all of that stuff. And it took me a long period. At first, I was trying to be like, oh, maybe I'll just have a few drinks. And I was able to do that. Anyway, a few drinks always led to more. And eventually, I was just like, right, if I want to stop this, I'm not going to drink anymore. I'm just going to put like the foot down, slam hammer. I am not drinking. I am not going to be that person. And for about 2 years, I didn't really drink at all. I might have had like one drink a year, like one night of drinking a year, either Kian's birthday or sometime around Christmas. And that because his birthday is December 29th. And then otherwise I just didn't drink at all. And then over the years, so after about 2 years of doing that, I was like, okay, well, then I was in prep, so I didn't drink at all. And then eventually everyone just kind of became like, knew that I didn't drink, that if I was going out, I wasn't drinking, and that was chill. And then eventually, when I kind of had that like down, I was like, right, okay, I can start to incorporate more drinks in without feeling like I'm going to go overboard, or without feeling like I'm doing it for anyone else's validation, and with just feeling I'm doing it for myself. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about in this episode, basically, because I've had a lot of my girls, and like, look, I feel like I attract the same kind of girls as me, of course, because that's who I am, right? And like I just put out who I am on Instagram, and then these girls kind of flock to me, which I fucking love, right? I love coaching people where I was. And I've got a lot of girls over the last while like message me basically being like, like not that they don't want to drink, but like they want to learn how to drink within moderation, and they feel that they're going outside of their boundaries. And then last week at one of my girls' check-ins, she was kind of saying that she went out for, like, she had her oats in the morning, and then she went out for a coffee with her friend, and her friend was like, oh, like, I'm gonna get a pastry. And she was kind of like, oh, she didn't want a pastry. She had a half marathon the next day. She'd already eaten the oats in lieu of the pastry. Like, she just wanted to get the oats in. She just did not want the pastry. And then she was kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna have a pastry, but I'm just gonna get a coffee. And she could see on her friend's face like the kind of like disappointment, or like the near like, like, oh, really? Like, you're leaving me by myself? Which then, of course, made her feel bad. And she was like, okay, right, I'll get a pastry. I'll share it with my boyfriend. And she was like, texting me. I was like, I just feel like I can't get over these things. I feel like, the social setting is really hard. And I completely get this, because every single girl that comes to me, I talk about how it's really hard to kind of, people think that you're changing, right? And people don't like change. We don't like change. As people, we want to stay the same. And we don't like things moving. And we also don't like things moving without us, right? So when you see a friend that's like doing something different to how they were, it can be really hard, because it's like, well, you're not who you used to be. And even if you're still going out, you're still having that like fun side, like, it's going to be really hard. And I'm going to say that from the start. It is really hard. You have to understand that if your friends are only friends with you because you get a fucking pastry in a coffee shop, or because you're going out drinking with them, like, are they really your friends? Like, do they not enjoy your company enough that they don't mind if you're not drinking? And that was something I really had to come to terms with. I think that's actually the hardest part of kind of moving away from that. Is you'll find that a lot of your friends well, not so much in the coffee pastry scenario, but like definitely in the drinking scenario, are only friends with you because it kind of like validates their drinking habits as much as you are obviously enjoying the drinking at the time. And I lost a lot of friends when I left, like when I kind of stopped drinking, when I left college especially, because that just wasn't me. But like I was chill with that not being me, because I was like, actually, like we are different people now, and that's fine. You still want to do all of this stuff, and I just don't really want to do it. And yeah, just separated them from me. But what I do want to talk about is kind of how you can do it more so in moderation, or kind of just without feeling as shit about yourself, okay? Because the main thing is, like, when I was looking at it now, I'm like, to be honest, if one of my friends, and maybe this is because I'm on the other side of it and I don't like drinking as much, and like I like having cutesy dates, I like having chill dates, I like having chill nights, and even with Kian, like I'm lucky in that sense, but he obviously still drinks quite a bit, but he doesn't expect that I drink a lot. Like he'd be like, oh, are you gonna have a drink tonight? And if I'm like, no, he's like, that's fair. And we might change, like, let's say if we were gonna go out to a pub before a meal, we just wouldn't go to a pub, or I'd get a Diet Coke, you know? And we're chill with that. But I do understand that comes with a certain kind of person, and it also comes with you setting your own boundaries. And that's what I kind of want to go through in this episode, like how to set those boundaries, how to understand like those people pleasing tendencies, and also kind of how to just say like that's enough for me, basically. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get to it in this episode, okay? First of all, if you have not already, I would really appreciate if you rated my podcast 5 stars, hit follow on it, because it, I think, pushes it to the algorithm. Every podcast I listen to says that it pushes the algorithm. I'm going to say it pushes it to the algorithm. I also would love, and of course it can be any podcast episode, if you could share it to your story. I have a real loyal like base of people that listen to this weekly, which I'm so grateful for. But girls, I feel like it's all my clients, which is exactly who this is for. Because I know that you guys are all struggling with this, but also I would love if more people did listen, because of course I would like to spread the word, you know, to spread Kiva's good word. So yeah, if you do like this, please do share it to your story as well. I would really appreciate it. Tag me if you do, because I would obviously love to see it. I'd love to say that I love you, you're my best friend forever, and you are my favorite person, you know. And also, sorry, this is another big thing I want to get to in this episode as well, is I am based in Dublin, right? And I completely understand how hard, like even in Ireland, the not drinking scenario is, to kind of like saying no, people pleasing. And I get how hard it is, especially when you're in Ireland, to like make friends. And this is my call out for friends. But if you're in Dublin and you're like, oh, I just don't really have any place where I can go that's not drinking, and that's also not a run club, because fuck runs, because I'm not a runner anymore. And I'm willing to admit that I can coach people to run. I understand how it works. But right now I'm not a runner. I'm too heavy into my gaining phase. I tried to go on a 3K run the other day. It was fucking terrible. I ran a marathon in 2024. I did it in 4 hours and 5 minutes. That 3K run took me 30 minutes. That's crap. I know it's crap. But anyways, if you would like friends in Dublin and you'd like to go to like cutesy little sauna dates or anything like that, please do message me on Instagram, because I actually want to make like a little group chat of people that will do it with me. And because yeah, your girl's lonely and I would love to go to saunas with people. Anyways, that's my friend plea. Otherwise, let's get into the actual episode, okay? So yeah, I really want to talk about basically the pastries that you don't want, the alcohol that you don't really want, and the night out like you don't really want to go on, but you went anyways because like cancelling felt too complicated, or just the night out you went on and you kind of wanted to leave and you were like, oh, I have to wait for that right time to leave. This feels really awkward, but I'm not having fun anymore. Like I want to go home and sleep, so I go to the gym tomorrow. Basically, if you're stuck in this mindset, this is where I was a few years ago. I'm going to try and get you out of it, okay? Don't know if we're actually going to do that, but let's try it. So, talking about all of these things and why they keep happening, and I don't feel like any of these things are, like, they're not uncommon, right? They're not normal. I just generally think that they come from a place where you were in your past of, like, people pleasing, right? And I think I get a lot of people that come to me that are people pleasers. I don't know, like, I actually work with a mindset coach, and she was kind of, like, digging up my past, right? I am a oldest of 3, and I basically raised, like, my siblings. So I think some of you guys know this before, especially if you have been loyal listeners, but like my younger sister used to call me mom. Like she called me mom until she was about like 6, and then my mom had to start calling her like, oh no, Kiva's your little mom, like Kiva's not your real mom, basically. And because Leah didn't have a clue, because everything in school that she was taught about being like a mom, like I was that for her. So yeah, so I think it's like a lot to do with that. Like I've always been this sounds weird to even admit, but look, I've talked about it loads with my mindset coach stuff. I've always been like the beck and call of my parents. Like, if my parents tell me to do something, I don't like letting people down. I don't like disappointing people, so I'll do it. And I'm really trying to get between, because I don't mind being like that. Like, I think that makes me a great coach, right? I will never ever want to let my girls down. I'll always go out of the way to make my girls' experience better. I'll always go above and beyond for any of my clients, and my girls will say that as well, which I think makes me a great coach. But where I struggle with it, right, and where I struggle to set boundaries is the fact that, yes, while it makes me a great coach and while makes me a great daughter, I suppose, it doesn't always have me feeling good in myself. Not so much in the coaching aspect, because I get so much out of that, but from, let's say, like a familial aspect, or like my parents, like I feel like and as I'm getting older, I'm realizing more and more as well, like I give them a lot, and where they might like give me a lot financially, let's say, because they do, like emotionally it wouldn't be there, and like sometimes like I'd feel very, very broken, or like very like upset with how much I've given, and like not even not received, but how I've felt after giving that, right? And how I've been treated after giving whatever it is, like whether it be giving up my time, whether it be, you know, like doing whatever it is, and then not really feeling appreciated. Whereas with coaching, I always feel appreciated because I see the girls appreciating it, do you know what I mean? But I don't always feel that way in my family life. So yeah, I think that's where a lot of my people pleasing tendencies have come from. But I'm going to go through like kind of what that actually is, and like possibly you might relate to that. I'm just basically going through a little therapy session here as always. And if you relate, great. If you don't relate, why are you still listening? You know what I mean? But yeah, so somewhere along the way, essentially, I feel like you have probably learned, and this is the same as what I've learned, is that other people, like making other people feel comfortable is more important than doing what you know to be true, or doing what you know for yourself. I'm always looking like left hand side, but I want to be looking straight because I'm looking at myself. Okay, I need to fix that. Anyways, if you are watching this, I'm going to try to put this on YouTube if I can actually just look straight. But yeah, that's something that I feel like is kind of the primary issue, right? You're learning that keeping other people comfortable, keeping other people happy is more important than keeping your word to yourself, keeping your promise to yourself, and showing up for yourself, okay? And that's what this episode's all about. It's about people pleasing, it's about what it is, where it comes from, what it costs you, as I've already explained, but especially in terms of your health and your physique goals, because over time, and especially girls, prep got me the fuck out of this mindset. So I've only really learned honestly about this in the last 18 months, because during prep, I was like, fuck this. If I don't do this for myself, like I'm trying, I'm basically just putting my body under all the stress, and it's going to be fucked up because of what other people think and what other people are expecting me to do. And I'm not going to do that, which then meant that I completely isolated myself, which I'm not recommending. But what I am going to do is go through it with you, and what you can actually do about it without just cutting yourself off from all of society and being like, I'm in monk mode, nobody talk to me. Because I do think that that's very much the easy way out, rather than actually facing what you want and being like, yeah, I want to have fun, I want to have experiences with people, but I also want to know my own boundaries, okay? So, what is actually people pleasing? I think people pleasing gets dismissed as like a personality thing of like, oh yeah, I'm just a people pleaser. I have always had this, like, oh yeah, but like I like pleasing people, I'm a people pleaser, and like I'll always be there for people, you know. And I just like to keep the peace, right? I just like to keep the peace. I don't want to like stir anything up. I don't want drama. I don't want confrontation. That is me, okay? I like it's kind of contradictory because I like control. I like being in control of things. I don't like when other people have control, so much so that like even other people driving, like when Les is key, and I'm kind of like, oh my god, like I'm a passenger driver. Same with like, let's say like even like we went out for a swim yesterday in Bico, and like I was like, no, I don't want to get in. This is gonna sound so weird, but like I don't want to get in the whole way because I don't like when my feet are like not touching the ground, because it feels like I'm not in control of things. This is a me issue that I so have to work out. But all of these things, like I like being in control for. Again, same thing, makes me a great entrepreneur, makes me great at being self-employed, makes me a great coach. But does it make me a great person? Probably not. I am a great person. I do believe that I am a good person, but I do have work to do still, and I understand that. But one of the things is like I don't like confrontation. While I like being in control of a situation, I don't like confrontation. And what that generally means is I end up kind of just isolating myself from a situation. So if I can see a situation is going wrong, I just won't speak on it and I'll just leave. I'll observe the situation. I'll talk to like, let's say Kian or whoever I'm close to at the time, or like my best friend, and like whoever is there with me, I'll talk to them about it. I'll be like, here's what happened, here's what I think. And generally, like I would say, and like even Kian would say, like I'm very emotionally intelligent. I'm someone that can read a situation very well, because it's always what I've been like basically had to do when I was a younger kid. And I've always been kind of the peacemaker in the family, right? So if like my parents are fighting with my brother or whatever, because generally that's how it went, I would basically be the peacemaker. Even when I was in boarding school, like I used to get, so I went to boarding school when I was like 16, and I used to get called being like, from my mom, like being like, "Dad and Jack are fighting, like, can you help out?" And I was like, "Bro, like I'm 16. You're literally the mother in this situation. Why are you calling me right now? Like this is causing me so much stress." But of course, being the people pleaser, I was like, "Yeah, of course." Would call Jack, would call like, my mom again, be like, "Blah blah blah, this is what Jack says, here's what Dad says, blah 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 blah." And yeah, that's basically how I was raised, girls. But that framing of like, let's say, being a people pleaser, being a yes person, keeping the peace, like doesn't like confrontation, etc., undersells essentially how deep the pattern goes and how much it costs women, especially like when you live with this, like when this is your kind of your reality in your whole life. And I think I've kind of just explained there like how much it does really cost you, because it's not a personality trait, right? It is very much a survival strategy, and it's something you have learned from very early, probably in response to that kind of environment, whether it be a parental environment, whether it be some other environment in school where, like, let's say if you were bullied or something like that, and you really tried to, like just stay out of people's way and just kind of get on with things. And you've felt that where keeping other people happy would keep you safe, it would keep you loved, and it would keep the peace in a way that felt like necessary. So like generally it kind of happened with people that are like being bullied as well, because you obviously don't want to be bullied. Who the fuck wants to be bullied? Side note, same thing. I mean, I can actually look back and be like, I understand why I was bullied. Because I had an eye patch, like a pirate eye patch, and glasses on top. And also, like, I know that my ears don't look as bad anymore. They still don't look great. But, like, girls, if I was to get up a picture of how wonky my ears were when I was like 3 or 4, it was really, really, really bad. I'm sure you can find a picture somewhere, but it was really, really bad. Maybe I'll share one. Someone text me and I'll show you. But yeah, it was really bad. So I can kind of understand why I was bullied. But when I was about like 9 or 10, because I used to walk home from school on my own, yeah, I used to get rocks thrown at me. And anyways, obviously it did not feel good. So I was like, right, well, obviously I'm not going to get involved in this. I'm just going to keep my peace. I'm going to stay like grounded, stay centered, stay me. At the time, I didn't realize any of these were response things. I just thought like that was me, right? And if you grew up in a house like where conflict is scary, where keeping your head down, going along like was the thing that should have been done so that you could avoid something worse, you might have these tendencies, right? And I can see them now. Like even like I'm so proud of my sister. I don't know if she'll watch this, but like she is really, really good at not doing this, right? Like she will always stand up for herself. She'll always tell, like my parents like, what's up? Like she'll be like, no, bro, like I am putting you in your place. And she's just gone 18. That is not a bit of me. Like I'm like, if something goes wrong, like I am way out. Like I'm just like, just ignore them, just don't talk to them. She's like, no, what does that do? Blah blah blah. And I'm like, there's just no point arguing. But she's like, no, there is a point arguing. And I'm like, slay girl, go you. Could not be me, right? Could not be me. And even now, even though I can recognize that I'm a people pleaser in that sense, I still just try to avoid the situation. Now, obviously, that is for different reasons. I'm like, I'm too far gone now, I just don't really care. I'm not going to change their opinion, so I don't care that much. Maybe that is a flaw on my part, but I've just learned from like years and years of this, it's not, nothing's going to change, right? But if you've had a parent whose approval felt like conditional, or you were the kid that kept everyone calm, you were the kid that like was able to read the room, and you made yourself feel smaller so that other people could feel bigger, you've probably found yourself in a people pleasing position. I'm so aware that I'm probably talking to a niche part of you guys, but I know that you will probably see some of yourself in this, whether it's all of yourself or not, okay? If it was school, a relationship, workplace, all of these things where saying no had consequences, right? And whatever like the beginning of that story is for you, and it's different for everyone, right? The result is generally the same in that you are someone who is attuned to what other people need and want, and you are deeply, deeply like uncomfy with the fact that you could disappoint someone, even at the cost of yourself, right? I see this all the time myself. Like, oh, should I stay? Well, not as much anymore, but definitely not as much anymore. Like, Keane's always like, yeah, you don't not put me in my place. I'm like, yeah, bro, because I know that like this is like an unconditional thing. And like I know that like I'm not gonna have to like, if I say something and it hurts you, like it's not that I mean to hurt you. We can actually talk through that and communicate it healthily. But that hasn't always been the case, right? And I do hate disappointing people. Even now, like I will always kind of go out of my way to help with people. And even when I can be like, oh, this is at the cost for myself. But I've gotten a lot better at being like, no, I don't feel like it today, or no, actually I have to go train first and then I can meet you. Not even saying no to people, just compromising. Like yesterday, my mom was working from home at her house. She was like, do you want to go on a walk? Like, I'm home alone. And obviously that is like in me and my people pleasing. I used to be like, yeah, of course, what time? Like, like everything was in her power. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, I'm doing some work. Then I have a call. Then I'm in the gym. I'll be free from 12 o'clock. And she was like, okay. And like, that was easy. You know what I mean? Like that was so easy to say, but it used to be a thing of me being like, oh, do you want me to just like come over for the day and like stay with you? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, bro, you don't need to do that. Like, you don't need to do that. Right. But when your pattern of like people pleasing is like so deeply ingrained, and like it's nearly an automatic reflex of being like, oh fuck, what do I do for everyone else? How can I actually prioritize this person? What can I do to like help them? It will follow you everywhere, right? Including like into like those settings of like going out with friends, even if your friends are unconditional and like you like really, really like you know that they're gonna be your friends, regardless through thick and thin. It can be really, really hard to be like, I actually am good for a drink, because you nearly feel like, oh my, you're preempting the fact that they might be let down or that they might get awkward. And you're like, oh my God, no, like I just don't want to make anyone awkward and I don't want to let anyone down. So I'm just going to say yes. And you know that like if your friend was like, oh, I'm actually going to like stay out of this round. Or even if your friend was just like, oh, I'm just going to get like a Ribena, you probably wouldn't be like, what the fuck, you fucking weirdo. Like you don't belong at this table. But in your head, right, in your head, that's like what they're going to say to you. And like, I get it. All right. I'm the same with like, let's say a pastry and a coffee, like even like, and for the first few times, girls, it can be so demoralizing, right? Like I remember like when I was on prep and I was like going on walks, so like me and my dad have a better relationship now. We used to go on walks in the morning time at like 6:30, right? And on a Wednesday specifically, and on each Wednesday we'd get like a pastry and a coffee, and obviously prep came along. I wasn't getting the pastry anymore, and the first few times he was like, oh, like he made like we were real awkward, like, and I was just like, oh my God, like I was like, this is so uncomfortable, like I feel icky in my body. But I was also like, but my goals matter more right now. My goals matter more, and I wasn't even explaining to him why. I just felt so icky, right? And then eventually I was just like, I'm not going to go on these walks anymore, which was terrible because I could have just gone on the walks, be like, look, I'm on prep, I'm not going to have this pastry, but I still want to spend the time with you. I still want to have a coffee with you. I just don't want to get the fucking pastry. And like, he wouldn't have had any problem. In fact, he might have been like, actually, I don't even really want the pastry. Well, I think he's doing the same as me. Like, he's just getting the pastry because I was getting pastry, you know? Whereas we think like, oh no, like if I'm going to be the awkward one, this is so weird, right? So you always find it like easier than explaining, oh right, I'm not going to get one, because you're like, oh my God, what if they think I'm the weirdest person ever? And what if they like fucking, I have 3 heads if I say no? And that's not the case. And realistically, if your friend said no, you'd be fine, right? Same if you're in the bar, like, and someone puts a drink in your hand, is like, oh yeah, and then you're like, oh my God, well, I have to drink it now, or like, you know, I don't want to get a 0-0 because like, what if people know? And generally people wouldn't even have a fucking clue, right? All of these things are, yes, while they can feel uncomfortable at the start, and it's really hard to explain why you're not doing it, these are all things that are like the pattern of people pleasing. Because realistically, it's not about like saying no to pastry. And you probably already know that you can't have a pastry, you just don't want it right now. All right. And this is all relevant when you don't want the pastry. It's not when you can't have the pastry. It's when you don't want the pastry and don't want the drink and feel like you're saying yes just because someone else is there. Right. So if I talk about this in terms of a physique context, not so much a mindset context, because obviously, as I said, not a mindset coach. I'm just going through the patterns that I see that have held me stuck, kept me stuck, even that have kept me stuck and kept some of my girls stuck. And they are the most important people, right? Because I think there's a version of the conversation that's like, I don't know, like kind of vague. Whether you're in whatever like phase you're in, right? You will know, obviously, I'm in a building phase. If you don't know, pop over to my Instagram. You'll see me document that. Soft plug. And also hop over to the YouTube, girls. I've been on it with uploading. I think I have another one coming today if I can edit my kind of Sunday reset day, okay? But whatever phase you're in, whether it be like build, whether it be a prep, whether it be a cut, whatever it is, and you're committed to a nutrition plan, right? You know it's working. You want it to work. Even I've seen this recently with my lactose-free, gluten-free. Like, I feel like even my dad has been like to me like, oh, you're on this shit. Like, do you know, I'm like, it's not shit. It's like literally for my health. Like, but at the same time, even though I know it's for my health, I found it so difficult to be like, it's for my health. Because he's like, well, you were eating it a few weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, but that's because I didn't know it was bad for me. But I can't say those things because I'm like that's my brain is like, and now I'm able to be like, yes, for my health, it's fine. Like, do you know what I mean? And I can just get over it. And I'm like, I don't need to explain it. Like, you're not going to realistically get it anyways. But even if you don't get it, that's not my position. That's not my thing to have to explain it to you, right? And the same way, like if you're on a plan, if you're hitting your prep like targets, if you're hitting your build targets and stuff like that, and then you're like, oh, a weekend comes, a work event comes, or like a family thing comes up, and or like even a spontaneous coffee, like where you're like, oh right, well like my friend has asked me for coffee, obviously I want to go, and next thing your whole thing falls apart because you're like, oh my God, like I got fucking milky coffee, now everything is off, and blah blah blah, and it's also shit, and the whole world is coming down, right? But in the background, like nothing else stopped mattering. Like your goals still matter. You're like still on plan, right? But the social pressure of the situation, and like that's literally imaginary pressure, right? Overrides everything you've done this week because it feels like you're out of control. And I think this does come, I suppose actually now and think about it, like controlling does come a lot from this as well, because you want to be in control of the situation, right? And what that pressure actually is, right? Because really like it's almost always internal, as I've said, like the anticipation of what someone else would think or feel if you say no. Like if you were like, oh yeah, I'll come with you for coffee, but actually I'm not going to get one. Like, you know what I mean? And you kind of be like, oh, like this is going to be really bad. But like your friend's just going to get a fucking coffee. You're still going for a walk. You're going to chat to her, you know? But the fear of being seen is the hard part. The fear of being the person who makes things awkward, the fear of being the person who makes things difficult, like the odd one out. And I think this is such an Irish thing as well. Well, my Aussie girls can tell me and my American girls can tell me if it is such an Irish thing, but I think it is such an Irish thing because like everyone's like, oh, you're one over there. Like even I grew up around like my family, my granny is like always like, oh, this person's looking for notice. She's looking for notice. She's looking for notice for everything. And it's like, so fucking what? Like just don't pay any heed to her then. But in that old age, it's like, oh my god, like she's a big attention seeker. Don't give her attention, bro. But like that is kind of how we all grew up of being like, oh, don't look over there. She's giving her attention. Oh, don't look over there. Look at her looking for notice. Look at her looking for this. And it's like, just don't give it to her if you don't want to. I know it's just quite easy. But the fear of being asked to basically take notice or anything is really hard, right? The people pleaser is gonna say yes, but not because she actually wants it, but because she sees the alternative, like the moment of like potential discomfort, that feeling in your gut where you're like, oh fuck, like I'm gonna be the odd one out here, I'm gonna be the weird one, I'm gonna make it difficult, right? And the possibility of like someone raising literally their eyebrow or being like, oh, why wouldn't you get a pastry? Or oh, why wouldn't you have a drink? Or oh, don't be a dry shy, etc. Like, right, that moment is so uncomfortable, and the cost of that over weeks, months, or over a whole prep or whole building phase is going to be fucking enormous, right? Not just from calories, right? While yes, calories, but in terms of your actual relationship with your own goals, that's what leads people never feeling like they can stick to their shit, right? What leads people to not actually being able to trust themselves long term. It's what leads people to essentially fucking up their whole phase. I think this is one of the biggest struggles with women, because it is that people pleasing mindset, that self-trust that you haven't built to be like, I can stick to my shit. I have proof that I can stick to my stuff, because every single time something comes up, you are letting your own goals go, right? And you don't want to be. It is different when you want to be. Like there are plenty of times where I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna get a fucking boot jump. Fuck it, I want a pastry today. I'd love an ice cream today. None of those things I am letting myself go of. When I let myself go, when I let myself feel like, oh fuck, I fucked this up, is when someone asks me out, someone asks me out for an event or a drink or whatever, and I say yeah, but I didn't want it, right? There are times where I go out, and now I've gotten to a stage where when I go out, if I want a drink, I'll get a drink, but I never feel pressured into getting a drink. And the reason for that is because everyone around me now knows I don't drink, right? And if I want a drink, nobody makes a big deal out of it. No, at the start they did, right? When I went back to drinking a bit, people were like, oh, so are you drinking today? Like as if it was this big thing. And I was like, I might. And then now it's just like, oh, she might drink, she might not. And nobody cares. Nobody bats an eyelid, except for my parents when I decide I'm having a cocktail with them because they have to pay. But nobody bats an eyelid, right? So in terms of the story that you're building yourself as someone who kind of cannot keep the promises you make, is the reason though that you keep staying stuck. And honestly, this is one of the biggest reasons that I think 8 and 12 week goals don't really work. And it's one of the reasons that I think like people really struggle in terms of, let's say, even I had a friend the other day who her neighbor, I think it was, brought home a load of chocolates, and then she had chocolates because she was like, oh, they're like different chocolates and like blah blah, like, you know, I really want them. But also like definitely part of that is being like, oh well, I don't want to let them down, they brought home these chocolates for us, right? And it's like, yeah, nobody's saying you can't have the chocolates, but it doesn't mean that you have to like get them all into you now. You can be like, oh, thanks so much for the chocolates, have the chocolate, know that I chose this chocolate, that's absolutely fine. It's not against my plan because I wanted this chocolate, right? And now I'm going to save some chocolates and have them at a later point when I decide I want them, not when I'm like, oh fuck, I need to horse these in right now because blah blah, I've already let myself down, I've let everyone else down, he's going to think that I'm like not taking his chocolate, it feels so bad. And I think that's where we get stuck, right? And every time you override your own needs to manage someone else's comfort, you are sending yourself a message that your needs aren't important, that your needs are negotiable, that other people's feelings are more important than your goals, and you will show up for everyone except yourself, right? And what do you think that is going to do for your physique? It ain't gonna be good, right? And at the end of the day, you probably are sitting there thinking, because this is what I used to think as well, I would sit there thinking, being like, if they didn't want this, they wouldn't get it. Why can't I say no? Why can't I say no? Because if I was out and like, let's say I'm gonna bring it back to my parents, lol, but like if I was out and my parents were like, "Oh, I'm not gonna get a pastry," I wouldn't be even bat an eyelid. But then if they were like to me like, "What do you mean you're not getting a pastry? You love pastries," then I'd be like, "Oh, I have to get a pastry," even if they weren't fucking getting one. Do you know what I mean? I did not care that they weren't getting one. I would just feel bad that I was nearly letting them down. Although how was I letting them down? Do you know what I mean? I wasn't letting them down. I just didn't want a pastry, so it wouldn't be letting them down. But in my head, I was thinking, "Oh, well, what if they think I'm different? What if they think I've changed? What if they think I'm weird?" And at the end of the day, you have changed. It doesn't matter, right, what they think. If you want to do this for yourself, you have to understand that you need to change and that living how you've always lived is not going to get a result that you've never got. Boom. But every time, yeah, you override your own needs to manage someone else's comfort, you're basically going against what you want, right? And that message will build up, build up, build up, and eventually it becomes a belief. And that belief becomes the pattern, and that pattern becomes your life. You are now locked into being a people pleaser. You are now not able to say no to social events. And when you go on social events, you are now going to do whatever your friends want and never stick to your own shit. And how do we think that feels? Like shit. Right? I have a few examples as well of like where this used to really, really be apparent for me. This is gonna be a really, really specific example that just shows how bad it was, right? Where when I went to college, I felt really like I really, really wanted to be liked, right? Of course. So I came from boarding school. I was really liked in boarding school, which was great. I had a lot of friends leaving boarding school. It was fab. My boarding school was very small. There was only 18 people in my like class. And when I went to Galway, I was like, okay, right, like obviously I want to make friends. I want to be like friends with people. I was living in a house. It was chill. It was chill. But I definitely didn't have a lot of self-confidence still. Like, I didn't admit it at the time, but I definitely still felt like insecure in who I was as a person. And this person started messaging me basically on Tinder or whatever. And I was like, slay, somebody likes me. This is so fun. Sorry, I'm literally sweating, like, even talking about this, but I don't care because I'm so over it now. But yeah, I was sweating actually, like, thinking about it. Like, I was sweating thinking about it. I'm like, why can I not get my words together now? But I was like, this person likes me. That's amazing. I was in first year. I was literally 3 weeks into college, and this person was in final year, right? And I remember then I was like, started getting with them. We were like together, and like maybe like 3 weeks into us like being together, he was texting my housemate on Tinder. I know. He was texting my housemate on Tinder, and I was like, "What the actual fuck?" Like, I was literally broken over this. I was like, "What the hell?" I was like, "That's just so weird." I was like, "What have I done wrong?" But obviously, me being really insecure, I genuinely just felt like it was like something that I had done wrong. Like, I was like, "Well, obviously, I'm not good enough. Like, I'm not the person I should be. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so what? Like, I'm gonna tell you how much this actually affected me, like long term, but." Then I was like, I brought it up because I was like, this is so weird. Well, actually, I stopped talking to him. Like, I was like, I'm just not going to reply ever again and it'll be fine, even though we were literally together. So I just didn't, that's how much I was like, actually, that's my confrontation problem. I was like, I'm not going to reply anymore. I'm just going to like leave it. Like, we were literally together. I wasn't going to get away with that. Like, he knew where I lived. But, anyways, he messaged me, he was like, what's the crap? Like, oh, we're not replying anymore, etc., etc. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm not replying because I know you were like texting my housemate on Tinder. Like, what the fuck? And he was like, oh my God, like, can we talk about it? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, why did I say yeah? I don't know. I was insecure. But I was like, yeah, okay, like, we can talk about it. And then went over, like, we had a chat. And he was basically saying that, like, he was on Tinder, like, to make friends. I know. I know, girls. He was saying that he was on Tinder to make friends, and I was like, bro, I was like, yeah, like, I was like, I don't really care. Like, I was like, you don't go on Tinder to make friends. You like only are set to girls. Like, that is just a weird vibe for me. Anyways, me being me, not feeling like being a people pleaser, not wanting to like, not give anyone the benefit of the doubt or anything like that. I was like, well, like, nobody's gonna like me anyways. I'm like really insecure. Nobody's gonna want me. I'm saying this really, really like blah because I've already like this is so many years ago. Like, what's that, like 6 years ago now? 7 years ago? 7 years ago. Crazy. But yeah, 7 years ago. And I was like, nobody's gonna like me, like blah blah blah. And then we stayed together, right? We stayed together. And then 3 months later, so we were like still seeing each other, we were still together, etc. It was chill. We were going on dates, we were like going over to each other's house, well, mostly me going to his. But we were over to each other's house, all that good stuff, right? Then we kind of like broke it off. We were like, look, this isn't working, like things aren't going well, like that's fine. Nothing was really going wrong. He just didn't want to be with me anymore, and that was chill. Like I was like, whatever. Well, that's shit. Was also like whatever at all. I was fucking broken. I was like, I'm the worst person in the world. I'm terrible. Like, why would anyone want to be with me? All those thoughts went through my head. Okay. And then I was working in a pub at this time in Galway. I was working in a pub, and next thing he like shows up. We're broken up, right? And he shows up at my work. Like he shows up at my work after a night out, and he was like, "Oh my God, I made a big mistake. Like I want to get back with you. I'm so sorry," and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is so like, I almost felt like it was a nice thing. I was like, oh my god, like this is so nice. Like he does really like me. Like why would he be here if he didn't really like me and stuff? I just should not be putting all this on Spotify, but I am. Anyways, but he was like, I was like, he really likes me, etc., etc. So I got back with him, and then that day he was really, really drunk. Right? Why did I do this to myself? Well, I was really, really drunk, and we were going out for like, I was working, so I was very sober, and we were going out for some food. Right? I didn't drive at this time either. Context the story, but I didn't drive at this time either. And we were going out for some food after like the night out. And then he was like to me, like, he basically started like shouting at me in the middle of Galway. He was like shouting at me in the middle of Galway, telling me I was like the worst person in the world, that I ruined everything, that I ruined every event, that it was never any fun to be around, that I was basically just a shit person. I was like, why did you come to my workplace? I was like, why did you like come to my work? And he was like, I don't fucking know why I came to your work, like you're so bad, like I fucking hate you, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh my god, I was like, what the actual fuck? I was like, and someone actually came up to me on the street and was like, hey girl, like, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I was like, I think I'm okay. Like, this is so weird. I was 18, right? He was like 24. Anyways, and then we went, why did I go back to his? Like, it's like, okay, we're gonna talk about it. I was like, this is so weird. You're obviously so drunk, like blah blah. No, we didn't just go back to his. We drove back to his, but he drove. He was like so drunk, and this is how bad it was. Like he drove. He was so drunk, and he was like, see, like he was like, this is why you'll never ever like be with anyone. Like you're like you don't even care about yourself, which he was right. He was like, you don't even care about yourself. Like, why would you get into a car with me? Like, I'm drunk and like blah blah. And I was like, why would you drive? And I was like, you obviously don't care about yourself either. And he was like, wow, like blah blah blah. And he just shouting at me, right? So then I was like, oh, I'm not staying here. The only good thing I did. So I went home. I was like, I'm not staying here. Like, fuck this. And in my head, I was like, that is it. We are done. Like, he was like, I don't like you. I've never liked you. All this stuff. So I was like, right, that's it. I'm done. No. He did not let me go that easy. He was like messaging me like all the time. Like he was consistently messaging me being like, oh, like, oh, I didn't like, why are you not talking to me? Why are you not doing this? I'm like, bro, why do you think I'm not talking to you? I'm like, you were horrible to me, you know? And anyways, that was it done. But I stayed way too long in that scenario. I don't know why I just went into that story, but I stayed way too long in that scenario because I should have been out when he started fucking texting my housemate on Tinder. But my people pleasing tendencies and my lack of confrontation kept me stuck. So much so to the point that when I started getting with Kian, which was like a year later, right? I had been through like talked to so many people in that period of time. And a year later started talking to Kian. And when me and Kian first got together, right, we obviously did not start going out straight away. We were like 2 months into seeing each other. He still had Tinder. I didn't really say anything. I didn't have Tinder. No, I didn't have Tinder. He thought I had Tinder. So basically there was a bit of a disagreement because he thought I had Tinder. I did not have Tinder. I think it was Flow, which is crazy. But I didn't have Tinder. As soon as I started talking to Kian, I had fancied Kian for like a year previous. Probably longer than that. But anyways, I thought he was good looking, etc. And just we didn't really know each other that well. He was like best friends with my friends, and we didn't really know each other that well, so I didn't really like reach out. But I had like fancied him for quite a while. I thought he was really good looking, etc. Anyways, I then started texting him. We actually started messaging, and I deleted Tinder because I was like, I want to be his girlfriend. And no, I just really got along with him and everything. But I still have flow because like obviously a girl needs to track her period, right? I don't know why I had flow because I was on the pill, so I didn't even have a period. But anyways, I had flow. And Cian thought it was Tinder because obviously Cian had never been like with a girl before that, so he thought that that was Tinder. So he had deleted Tinder and then re-downloaded Tinder because he seen flow on my phone and thought it was Tinder. And he was like messaging people, but like not crazy because we were obviously seeing each other, and like he was like he really fancied me, so he stopped messaging people. But I remember we were out on a date and he got a message on Tinder, and I was like, oh cool, you still have Tinder. But I was like, I'm not gonna say anything, we're only like going out, like we're not like together, right? And then we got together in November, and then I think it was like that day, so this has been this year's about 2 months, and that day he got a message on Tinder, and I got so upset. Like I was also wine drunk, but I got so upset. I was like, no, you can keep Tinder. I was like, I don't mind, like I know that I'm not like that person and blah blah blah. And he's like bro, like he's like, obviously I don't want to keep Tinder. But that like trauma response of being a people pleaser and being someone that didn't want to be confrontational, especially with my ex, like he really fucked it. But also he really like fucked my response up and made me even more go into this like thing of being a people pleaser. And honestly, what got me out of this, because I'm so aware that I need to talk about what got me out of this, was really, really prep, and also like therapy and like working with a mindset coach and all of these things. And I understand in my brain, but prep made me realize, and like also realizing that if I actually wanted to get in the best shape of my life, I was gonna have to commit to my goals and just accept that like I am going to have to not care as much about other people, and not in a bad way. I still overly care, but like not let those people kind of take me away from where I want to go and what I want to do. And how I was going to do that was going to have to be like compromise, right? Compromise. Things like I did yesterday of being like, yeah, I'm down for a walk and a coffee, but I'm down for at 12 o'clock. Being able to be like, yeah, would love to go for a walk with you, but when I got there, being like, oh no, I'm good for a pastry, or oh no, I've had food already, or even lied and be like, oh no, I'm going out for food later, you know? And all of these things are things that normal people do, but we, as people pleasers, don't tend to see that they do it because we're like, oh God, no, like that person wants me to do this. I'm letting them down. Okay. But yeah, anyways, if you relate to any of this, girl, you're probably a people pleaser and I'm probably looking at you. And there is a way to get out of it because I don't feel like I'm as much people pleaser. Actually, I would say I'm not a people pleaser anymore. There are some people that I just don't like really fucking fight with, i.e. like my family, and it's just because I just remove myself from those situations. But like if I don't want a pastry or something, I'm just not going out with them. Like I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, well I'm a people pleaser in this context. I either just isolate myself from the situation or stand up for myself. I don't like go out and go against what I want, right? And the thing about like all of these people that I see that are people pleasers, women specifically, and especially like where I was, you are often like the most capable, the most committed, and the most driven women, woman in whatever area you're in, right? People pleasing like isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of someone who has like enormous capacity to care and who has been directing all of it outward for so long that turning it inward feels selfish. It feels icky and it feels like, oh God, like no, like I couldn't care for myself that way. Like what if people think I'm selfish? What if people think I only care about myself? You're doing that right now for everyone else. And I promise you that everyone else in your life is taking advantage of it. And I hate to say that to you, but they are taking advantage of it. They're appreciating that you're the one that's giving them a lot of like attention and they don't have to give it back to you. They don't have to give it back to you. And that is just the truth. And I talk about this all the time, like in my own relationship. And also, like I don't really talk about it with my family, but I just remove myself from that situation. But in my own relationship, like whenever I feel that I'm giving a lot to Kim, because I do feel there are times where I give a lot to our relationship, and I'm like, hold on, like I don't feel you're holding yourself up to. And I can do this now, but this is something I never ever used to be able to do. Where I can now be like, I don't feel that you're giving as much to our relationship as I'm giving, and I feel like I'm going above and beyond, and you're doing bare minimum. And there are of course times where he turns that around and is like, I feel like you're doing bare minimum right now, and I'm giving a lot, and I'm like, yeah, 100%. So like we can have that healthy communication, and that's how it should be. You should be able to be like to your partner, to whoever it is, being like, look, I'm actually doing this for me. I don't feel like you're giving me what I need, and I don't feel like blah blah blah. Or they should be able to do it to you, right? And I think that everyone always says about like me and Kian specifically, and I feel like that is who we both are very healthy communicators now. I used to not be, but now I've like worked through all of that. And well, not that I used to not be a healthy communicator. I didn't used to be mean or anything. I just used to not communicate. So I really do feel like, and also being in a healthy space and knowing that like regardless, right? Like I realistically know that like let's say God forbid, I don't believe in God, but you know what I mean? Anything to happen between me and King, like I would eventually be fine, right? And he knows that too. And I also know that like me not living in my like true authentic, like being able to talk to him, being able to tell him these things wouldn't be healthy for me long term, right? If that is the thing that would end us of being me being like me being trying to be healthy, me communicating well, if that is the thing that would make our relationship go to shit, then it was already a shit relationship. The only thing that I think ever saves a relationship or maintains a good relationship is healthy communication. And if you don't have that, girl, you don't have anything. And that goes by every relationship, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's relationship, like partner. That is what you need is healthy communication. But anyways, healthy communication does not come from being a people pleaser. I want to get practical though. As always, I'm going to leave you some action tips, okay? Because I think this episode could land. Like, I feel like you probably are like, oh yeah, I see a bit of myself in this, hopefully, because otherwise I've just poured my heart out for no reason. But I don't want to leave you with nothing of being like, okay, cool, so I'm a people pleaser and I have to say no and I have to communicate healthily, because yes, well, you do have to do all those things. I understand that that's a lot easier said than done, and I'm speaking from the sense of like I'm still working through things, but I'm more on the other side than I was, and I don't know what side you're at right now. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is understand that saying no is not unkind. Saying no is not like you being mean. It's not you being selfish. It is just you being honest. Okay, the people pleaser in you has a deep held belief that saying no is a form of rejection. That you are being mean. You're being selfish. That it will hurt people. That it will damage your relationship with people. And that belief is almost always inaccurate. Reverse it. If your friend said no, how would you feel? Would you be like, you've ruined my life, you've ruined this date, like you've ruined this meetup, like I'm never fucking meeting up with you again? No. Why do you think then that? right? Most people, when you decline a drink, when you decline a pastry, when you decline an invitation to a social event, they will not care as much as you think they do, especially if it is a last minute thing, right? Your friend saying last minute, oh, do you want to go out tonight? Does not mean you have to be like, oh, yeah. Like, you can be like, oh no, sorry, it's very late notice. I already have plans. Whether those plans are to literally chill in your bed, whether those plans are to go to the gym, or whether those plans are completely different. It is okay to be like, oh no, sorry, it's not going to work, right? The story in your head right now about the reaction you will get is almost always significantly worse than the actual reaction. And if your friend is reacting really bad, if your friend is like, oh my God, like, fuck you, you're a fucking bitch, then are they a good friend? You know? And even when someone does react, as I said, yeah, even when someone makes a comment or like pushes back on it, that is their discomfort to manage. That's not yours. You don't have to make them understand. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'll make it up to you. No, you don't have to do any of that. You just have to be like, that's what I want to do. That's where I'm standing. And that's it, you know? Saying no isn't you being not kind. It's saying yes when you mean no, when you're not going to enjoy yourself, when you're not wanting to have fun, and also when you're not wanting to do yourself for yourself. Like performing agreement, performing enthusiasm, performing flexibility when you do not actually feel that. That is unkind to yourself and to them, because it's not you being honest. It's not you in a healthy relationship. You're realistically probably going to go home, say it to your coach, your boyfriend, your friend. Oh, really didn't want to go out, but I felt I had to, right? And it's you being dishonest to yourself, because it will cost you something every single time. Whether that is something that you could have done yourself, whether it's something that you could have spent time with yourself, or whether that was the time of being like, oh, well, I've just proven to myself I'm a shit person and cannot stick to things. I know that these are the feelings you have, but you are not a shit person, right? The second thing is prepare a response in advance. Whether that is made up or not, it does not matter. One of the reasons people pleasing happens so automatically, right? So like, oh yeah, I have to do it. It's like a knee-jerk response, is that the moment catches you generally off guard, right? Someone puts a drink in your hand. Someone is like, oh yeah, what are you gonna get? And you have to just order quickly, and like you're like, oh, what's everyone else gonna get? Oh, I'll order the same, right? And in the absence, or in the like space of a free, like of a actual prepared answer, your default pattern is just, well, yeah, I have to do it, right? So prepare a response. Like, it doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be a justification, it doesn't have to be like anything big. It could literally just be, girl, I know you're gonna hate this. It could literally just be like, oh no, I'm good, thanks. I'll order it myself. Oh no, I'm not drinking at the minute. Oh no, I'm driving home today. Always a great one. Bring your car, be designated driver. People will actually love that. And that's it. You don't owe anyone an explanation of your nutrition plan. You don't need to be like, oh no, I'm on a plan. Oh no, I'm on a diet. Oh no, I'm actually like prepping and blah. Like, remember, and I think this is one of the biggest things, right? I actually feel like when people say to me like, oh no, I'm like dieting, or oh no, like, I don't mind because I'm a coach, right? But I used to always feel like when I was saying that, people were seeing that as an excuse, right? It's the same way when like a lad is like, oh no, I can't go out, like, I don't know, whatever, I'm gonna say Aoife, like, Aoife won't be happy with me, like, can't go out, you know what I mean? And it's like, so your girlfriend is the problem, you know what I mean? It's like almost like you're excusing, you're like being like, oh no, so it's your just, so if it wasn't for your plan, you'd want to do it, but you can't because like this other thing is keeping you stuck. No, you don't want to do it, right? And like, you know, like if a lad says to me like, oh, oh no, I'm actually gonna, even this, right? This reframe of like being like, oh no, Aoife won't let me go out, versus, oh no, I'm doing something with Aoife, or oh, I'm going out with Aoife, or no, I don't want to, right? All of those things, I'm like, oh, that's your choice. You don't want to do it. That's so fair. Whereas if someone blames someone else or something else, I'm a bit like, oh, weird. They obviously want to, but they can't, right? And I think that's what then kind of gets this response. So you could literally just be like, I'm not doing this. But if you say like, oh, it's because I'm on a plan, it's like, okay, right, so you want to. You know, it's the difference between saying like, oh, I can't because I have a boyfriend, or I have a boyfriend. And you know that there's a difference, right? Like, do you want to or do you not want to? You know what I mean? And so just give a response, have a prepared response. Oh no, I'm good, I'm not drinking today. Like, it doesn't have to be a long thing, or oh, I'm driving, or oh no, I'm just gonna order a coffee. That's all it has to be. Say it out loud. Say it in the mirror before you go out if you need. Make it so familiar, so easy that that actually becomes your automatic response, right? And the third thing is separate the social from the actual event, right? This is a really practical reframe that I think is genuinely useful, especially with kind of like in a plan-based setting, right? The people pleaser like often conflates your social experience with the food and drink that's part of it. You think that you're saying no to the drink when you're actually, what means that you're saying no to the occasion, right? It means that you're saying no to the fun. That decline in the pastry means like you're opting out of the connection, like it's not the same, right? But it doesn't mean any of those things. You can be fully present, you can be fully engaged, and you can be fully social, connected without actually like consuming the whole event, right? The drink and pastry are never ever the point of like the meetup or the social occasion. It's generally the people, the environment, and you can be entirely present for the people without the drink or like the pastry in hand. right? Once you separate the things of like, I'm going out with my friends or I'm going out with my parents to the, oh, I'm doing this thing with my friends and parents, it makes it so much easier. And that's what I did. Like I used to like be like, oh no, I can't go pub because like then I have to drink. No, now I can go to the pub and get on my body and it's chill. You know what I mean? Once the social experience is no longer dependent on the like consumption of the thing, it becomes so much easier to navigate, right? Without like that all or nothing thinking of being like, oh, I have to do it because like blah, you know? And the fourth thing is like work with your coach. Of course, I'm gonna say work with your coach. I do feel like, yes, okay, while I know some people listening to this don't have a coach, I do feel like if you do have a coach, lean on them with this, because I promise you that like most people will have worked through it themselves or have gone to someone else or have like had this with someone else, right? This one is specifically for, yes, the woman in coaching relationships. And basically, if you're logging in like Monday to Friday and then you're doing this on the weekend and you're not telling people and you're feeling like, oh God, like my coach is going to be so annoyed because like I just cannot, I really want to stick to my stuff, but I just can't. I feel so bad. That is the things that are keeping most women stuck. And that is the things that a coach can actually help with. Okay. If your coach is only being like, oh, you just need to get on it, you just need to stand up for yourself, blah, blah, and not really giving you any tools or tips or like kind of like practicing these things with you, these three kind of like frameworks, it's going to be really hard for you to actually break it. And it realistically is what's going to keep you stuck beyond the plan. Okay. It is a coaching problem. It is a coaching problem. These things are all to do with coaching problems, right? These are not to do with like just stick to your plan and just get on with it. We know the people pleaser in you wants to stick to your plan, right? You want to stick to your plan, wants to make the coach proud, wants to make you proud. So if you are going against your plan because of these things, it is something that we can work on within coaching, right? And it can be addressed with strategies that are specific to your life and the social context that arises, but only if you're telling the truth in your check-ins. And I know it can be really hard, it can be really uncomfortable because that people pleaser in you wants to admit that like I've done everything right, and you don't want to admit that the weekend feels like you failed, right? Like you're letting your coach down, like you're going to be judged, all of these things. You're not going to be judged, you're going to be helped, you should be helped, but only if you bring the real like kind of answer of what happened, the real kind of thing, and not be like, oh yeah, just went out with some friends, haha, but now I feel like shit. It's like, oh, so did you want to go out with the friends or did you not want to go out with the friends? Give me more info, you know? But yeah, okay, right, I know I've been blabbing for like literally 50 minutes. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But I feel like this was a really good episode, actually. I feel like this is one I've wanted to make for a while, and it's just become more and more apparent, especially coming into summer. I do feel like it is one that probably needs to be heard. Okay. People pleasing isn't a character flaw, it is a learned pattern. It makes sense at some point in your life, and it probably does still make sense in some areas of your life. It keeps you safe, it keeps you loved, it keeps you connected in a way that mattered at whatever time it came about, right? Whether that be with your family, whether that be in your relationship, whether that be in work, right? But you have to accept that you don't want to be that version of yourself anymore. You're now a woman with goals, with a process, with a body, and a life that deserves to be treated as a priority. And you are your own person, and you don't need to be accepted by anyone else to learn to accept yourself. And the longer you're trying to spend being accepted by everyone else, the harder it is going to be to accept yourself. And every time you override your own needs to manage someone else's comfort, you're choosing that old pattern over the woman you're trying to become. And that choice is available to you in every single social situation. And I know sometimes it can be harder than others, but literally every single time someone does something for you that goes against what you actually want to do, you have a option and opportunity to be like, nah, not this time, bro. I'm going to choose myself, right? And I know that sounds really cheesy, it sounds really cringy, but you really do. You can actually say no, right? You can say it without being really mean. You can say it though. And you can do it because you're not like antisocial, you're not no fun, but because you've decided that keeping your word to yourself, keeping your promise to yourself matters just as much as keeping peace with everyone else. Because realistically, that peace with everyone else is not going to be kept for long if you fucking hate yourself in the process, right? And that shift is available to you, girl. If this episode, if you were like, oh shit, this is me, or if you want to talk about any of these things in like proper depth, because I do know that like some of the girls, like some of these episodes do hit really well in terms of like you being like, oh fuck, like she knows me inside out. Because look, realistically, like I was here, and you can pop me a message on Instagram. It's Kiva_excellence coaching. You can send me a little message and we can have a proper chat. And if you do want to work through any of these patterns, like if you're like, oh fuck, like that's me right now, you can work with me too if you want. My WhatsApp link is below, but otherwise head over to my Instagram, head over to my YouTube, and yeah, that's it for this episode. I am going to leave you here. Thank you so much for being here for this very long episode. I will talk to you next week. Love you. Bye.